This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing Marco from parts unknown, space, Hong Kong, and Jersey City. We are going to talk about Flywheel training. We're going to talk about AQ Strong, and we're going to talk about the future of fitness. So, Marco, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Pete, really excited to be a guest here today.
Awesome. And thanks for growing out the mustache for the show. We really appreciate that. We know it probably was a lot of work.
Every day.
Awesome. So, look, you've got a pretty storied career here, going back, and you've known Ganelin for a long time with kettlebell concepts into velocity sports on the Upper East Side back in the day. So, give everybody a little bit of your background, and then we'll riff to current events.
Yeah, I've been involved in fitness industry, athleticism for a long time. Not myself the greatest athlete, but that's part of what spurs my passion is that I'm always trying to learn how to be better and be a competitor in some way. So I have a background in strength and conditioning, graduated from Rutgers in New Jersey and started as a strength and conditioning coach there, but very quickly went into a variety of fields, worked on a cruise ship for a little while, went into commercial fitness, worked in a performance center in New York. It's still there, Velocity Sports Performance. Moved to Asia in 2010 with a company called Pure Fitness and started my own brand in 2019 called AQ Strong. And that's what I've been doing the last few years.
So what prompted you to go to Asia, and how was the pandemic starting a new business in a foreign country?
Well, I don't want to go through that again, that's for sure. I'm sure nobody else does either. I really enjoyed it. I loved moving to Hong Kong. I moved there in 2010. Pure is a brand that's very similar to, I would say, Equinox in the U.S. Mm-hmm. It's a premium lifestyle brand. At the time, we had a great leadership team, and my role was to basically build the personal training and fitness services and product. And we were able to do some really innovative things. We grew our client penetration from 8% up to above 20% in a matter of 4 years. So we just crushed it. And we were in a great market to do it at the time. So we had a lot of fun there. We did some really innovative things, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai. But at some point I saw that there was a gap in the market just for, athleticism in general and where the industry was going. We wanted to leverage this idea of athletic wellness. So we started AQ Strong with that purpose in Hong Kong.
What is it? What's the AQ stand for?
Athletic quotient, which is basically our formula of what people need for lifespan, health span, and longevity, which is coordination, mobility, strength, power, speed, and conditioning. Yeah. So not necessarily anything magic there. It's how you put those ingredients together.
So given that you were out in Hong Kong, kind of understood the market by working at Pure, when you started to launch a new business, talk us through as an entrepreneur, what size location were you looking for? Were you looking for something that was close to that current location because you had loyal members that were basically going to follow you? Tell us how you kind of put that together, because sometimes you start a business in a foreign country and you don't know what the rules are. You're not really sure like the traffic patterns. So talk us through how you got confidence to do that.
Well, for sure, it was helpful that I had been there for already 8-9 years running the Pure Fitness clubs, because I built a great network of local partners, including the vendors and the providers, but also local contacts, and importantly, a great local team of coaches that we had a great network with. We weren't going after the same customer. We were really going more after, as opposed to a lifestyle brand, we were more focused on the athleticism of it. And so we were going after a different kind of customer, people who saw themselves as a little bit more competitive in a different way. So our environment and our whole mindset was we want to open something that looks like an NCAA Division I training center, that when you walk in there, you feel like you're part of a team. And so all of the requirements were driven by that.
And what was the capital formation? Did you bring in some members? Did you bring in some private capital that was already in Hong Kong, or?
Yeah, we had an angel. No, we had an angel investor that contributed the bulk of what we needed to get started. But we started small. We just started with education for the first 6 months. We were doing coaching courses because we had a background in it. Then we did a pop-up lab for about a year, which was basically a short-term facility on a month-to-month lease, bare bones, and just running athletic stuff, using bare bones equipment. Once we had a critical mass of people who were interested, we had a good coaching network. Then we went and took the leap into a full-fledged facility, which was 10,000 square foot, which is still there to this day.
That's great. And then did you find that a lot of the trends of, weekend warriors or, people who are training for a triathlon or marathon or, a Tough Mudder or Smart Race, what have you. Um, did you was that proliferating at the time also in Hong Kong, or is it ahead or behind the
No, I
US?
think it's a very competitive environment, and things like adventure racing and certainly High Rock's very successful in Hong Kong at the moment. I think it's tends to be right there in the trends with New York or London or LA in how people view their health and their wellness and their fitness, and they're very competitive environment. But what we found is that athletic wellness is kind of like a following the trends of sports science and bringing the sports science to the everyday individual. And that's where we really see that there's a lot of convergence even now in what's happening internationally and in the U.S. market.
Mhm. When you think about one of the issues I have with this industry in general, daily,
Mm-hmm.
since I've been in it for 25 years,
Just one?
is yeah, just one,
Just
several,
one.
but I'm still here. The price to value is always off. The quotient of price to value
Mm-hmm.
is always like, people are paying a monthly fee,
Yep.
and it's probably one of the top three things that they talk about that are important to them in their life. If I see like a CrossFit charging like $65 a month, I'm like, they might wear a tattoo that has CrossFit on it. So charge them 300 to 500 a month because it's probably the most important thing in their life. So when you were in
Amen.
Hong Kong, yeah. So when you're in Hong Kong and you take a look at where you started with AQ and what you think the price to value is, or if you start a new venture in the US or whatever you're doing, targeting these athletes that obviously that extra couple seconds or those extra minutes, that might be the most important thing to them that they're going to talk about. So how do you think about that? And what do you think the maximum is that people are going to start to spend as they focus more and more on their longevity and, just overall, being an athlete till 50 or 60?
We think of it as well, we have pretty good data on this from our membership base. We have about 400 members at the moment in the club. And the average revenue per member is just around 285 US a month. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the bulk of that comes from them coming to structured classes. We have our core product is something we call semi-private coaching. So our core belief is that everybody works with a coach. It doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be 24/7, but everybody works with a coach. That's where we see the greatest value. So that core spend of 285 is just the core of what people are coming in, just the price of admission, but they're getting a lot out of that. And then they'll top up. They'll top up for extra, barbell classes or one-on-one sessions or recovery or some kind of manual therapy. So they're constantly topping up, and that starts to drive the revenue per member closer to 450 per person.
Can
And we
I
still think
stop you
that's
there and ask
probably
you a
undervalued.
question?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a group out of New York that I think they call themselves New York Athletic Clubs, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And you join like a squad. You don't actually join a physical location. When you're talking about like you're working with a coach, is there a coach that is responsible or like has like 50 or 100 members kind of like underneath them, and then how is that set up there? And the reason why I'm asking the question is because I go to these clubs sometimes and I'm saying like, hey, you lost 3,000 members last month. You that's basically like 50%
Yeah.
of your membership that's churning annually. And I said to this crew of managers, sales managers, personal trainers, who's responsible for this? And nobody raises their hand because they're basically playing like zone defense.
Yeah.
So when you talk about coaches, talk about how that works or how it could work.
We follow the Division One model, which is basically you have a head strength and conditioning coach. In our case, is a performance coach, and we have daily huddles in which the coaches talk about the athletes, which is everybody that joins, and we're talking about who's coming in for the day, who hasn't been in recently, and there's constant communication. But we don't assign specific athletes to specific coaches as much as we assign specific coaches who have areas of expertise. So someone who might be strength power related is talking about strength power for everybody.
Gotcha. So from a standpoint of looking at attrition in this type of model, how much
Yep.
lower is it than the average?
If you correct for people who are leaving Hong Kong, because Hong Kong has been, especially in the last few years, we've had a lot of exits from Hong Kong. Our attrition is less than 10%. Yeah, if you put that back in, it's closer to 20% annual. So most of the people that we've lost because they've left Hong Kong completely.
So you decided to come back to the U.S., hanging out in Jersey City, growing out an awesome mustache, by the way, if this was a video podcast.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Talk about the why you gravitated towards the flywheel training. Talk about eccentric
Yeah.
and eccentric, sorry, and where that started from. With NASA and the systems in space and how you brought that down back to
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah, well, I wasn't involved in that phase of it, that's for sure. But I've met Eccentric Team when we were in Pure Fitness in Hong Kong as part of. We had an innovation lab. We were really testing all the unique things that were happening in the sports science world that we could bring into a fitness setting. And I learned about flywheel training. It was around 2014, 2015 when I learned about it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing because it focuses on the eccentric phase of the exercise as much as the concentric, and you could do it at high speeds, which is really, I mean, if you get into the science of it, which I'll leave for another talk, it's really valuable for people to get results and to really improve their well-being as well as their performance. So we started using it in that setting, and then when we started AQ Strong, it was a core partner. We became a partner reseller for the region. So it was natural for me when I came to the US to work with Eccentric, and I found that really the fitness industry doesn't know anything about flywheel training. It's in the
Mm.
performance realm. Every major team in NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, they're all using it. NCAA, they're all using it because it's exceptional results for athletes. But the fitness industry doesn't know anything about it. So it's an opportunity to educate the industry and really help people get better results. And it's a great product, a great series of products.
And is that something that is typically like part of a workout, or is that like the core workout?
It really is up to the user. I mean, you can use it, for example, in the performance setting, they'll use it for just one purpose. They'll use it to improve power on a squat or power in a deadlift or to prevent hamstring injuries because you can train fast in eccentric motion and deceleration. But you can also use it for rehab. You can also use it as to potentiate something before a game to improve your power before you go out and play. So there's so many applications, and you can use it as an entire training method, or you could just sprinkle it in, which is basically what I do. I do all types of training, but I sprinkle it in on an almost daily basis as part of my routine.
Gotcha. And how is this being marketed? Is this a certification for trainers to add to their current certification? How do you? Is it a product sale business? You talk about the business.
Yeah, at the moment, it's a product sale business. I mean, most of where it's gone into has been on the performance side, where the coaches are exceptionally knowledgeable, so they know how to apply it pretty quickly. On the fitness side, that's where I think maybe there's a gap, and we're really starting to build on the education. So I think we need to lead with education and help train the entire market the value of not just flywheel, but the value of eccentric and isometric training to a strength program. And as people start to understand that, as businesses start to understand that, they're going to leverage it and they're going to it's one way they can differentiate. Yeah, especially with the trend in strength training now, it's a real opportunity for businesses.
Hmm. So as you go into the fitness industry, obviously you've been around it for a long time. There's some franchisors that you could target,
Yeah,
and they have mandatory purchasing that their franchisees have to do to stay in compliance. You go to certification companies and try and get like an NASM or ISSA. Um, you could go into like different parts of the corporate wellness market where maybe they're managing facilities. What's been the best results for you in penetrating the market, and what are some of the frustrations and some of the ways maybe you've kind of fought through that?
yeah. Well, the best is to focus on a company that really wants to improve their personal training program. So any company that really wants to add revenue in their personal training, Flywheel is a phenomenal device because it immediately creates an opportunity for engagement between the coach and the user. And it's something that people feel different about. As soon as they use it, they feel a difference. And if they keep using it, they see a difference over time. So it gets great results in a short period of time. They start to feel a difference, and it leads to more personal training. So that is a key leverage point right there. Same is true for small group training as well.
Mhm. And what's the price point on? I guess having what do you buy a set, or you like
Yeah.
for 10 or 20 people? What is that?
Well, there's a range of products, but it's as little as a home product, which is the active, which is around 1,200 US starting in that range. And Black Friday is going to be a great time to grab them because they're going to be running some discounts. To the professional sets, which are much larger, have a wider variety of accessories available. I mean, the power output you can put on these things, if you're into cycling, you know what top power is, 3,500 watts. It's limitless. I mean, you could do really intense workouts. Um, That ranges a couple thousand, and it depends on what accessories you want. And there's a wide variety of them. There's also a leg extension and leg curl machines. So there's some variety of products in there for depending on your use case, depending on what you'd like to do with it.
Gotcha. And how'd you get hooked up with this company originally?
Through Pure in Hong Kong. So we brought them in as part of our innovation lab and got to know the team at Eccentric. We have very similar philosophy on strength development, strength training. That the idea that people are robust, and if you just challenge them, they'll step up to the demands and really grow.
Hmm.
So we share philosophy, we share values, and the products are just exceptionally well made and simple, easy to use.
Gotcha. From a standpoint of what you want to accomplish, over the next three to 5 years, talk us through. You've been successful in international markets. You've been successful in the U.S. How do you kind of view your career path, and for others to kind of think about and say, hey, yeah, I like where Marco is. I like his, career experiences, international travel. What else do you want to achieve, or where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, there are two things I would love to see happen in the next few years. The first is this concept of athletic wellness. We want to spread the message that lifestyle is great, but you need some purpose. You need something that at certain periods of your life you're competitive at something. At certain periods of your life you're really looking at your health span and you're always balancing that out. And athletic wellness is really important to us. We want to spread that, whether it's through AQ Strong internationally or other means. That's part of my message. And the other is
Gotcha.
that Flywheel devices are going to be a standard. Just like, you go into any club and you see pin loaded machines from Life Fitness or Techno Gym, you're going to see Flywheel devices because the benefits of eccentric and isometric training are just so good and they overpower the benefits of just concentric, pushing alone. Yeah. So they're just so good that they're going to become the standard. And if brands can figure out how to leverage that, not only is it great for business, but it's great for the end user. Everybody wins.
Hmm. And then, what are some of the things that you see as potential trends going down the road? Obviously, you've got the Ozempic and
Mm-hmm.
Wegovy or whatever that's called, which everyone thought, hey, this pill's going to come out and it's basically going to eradicate the need for people to go to the gym. And now it's
There's
actually
always a pill.
the
There's
reverse,
always a
right?
pill.
Now it's like you have to do strength training,
Yeah.
or else you're going to end up in like assisted living,
Yeah.
at an early age, or you're just going to, whittle away. So, as you see some of these trends and you see like the health savings spending account
Yeah.
and FSA that you can use towards fitness, how optimistic are you that over the next 5 to 10 years that this obesity and diabetes and loneliness, that we're actually at the epicenter of solving it? That's basically what we're trying to do.
Um, I mean, I think the U.S. could correct itself. The U.S. is particularly bad at this, I think, in terms of the obesity epidemic. I think a lot of it is systemic, not just within the fitness industry and maybe beyond the fitness industry to solve by itself. But what the fitness industry can do is remove the barriers to entry for anybody coming in. And that's, one of the great benefits of this HVLP model is that it just really expands the size of the market and gives access to a lot more people. But then it's up to all the variety of boutiques and differentiators to really educate that group and try and bring them up to the next level and blur the lines between training in a location, training at home, training on the road, whatever it may be. Just finding ways to make training not just a part of my life, but have some purpose to it. What am I working for? What am I working towards? And how does it enhance my life and my well being and eventually my health span? I would say I'm generally an optimistic person. So, yeah, I think it's achievable, but definitely there are headwinds.
From a standpoint of what you're doing, locally, are you currently, training for anything in particular?
At the moment, myself for training, no, I love to get outdoors. I'm always about learning a skill, and right now I'm putting a lot of time and effort into Indian clubs, mace, and gata, which is a skill I've been working on for the last few years. I guess you could
What's
call it a
that?
new. Well, I would say I guess you could call it a new training style, but it's been around a couple hundred years. But it's very Middle Eastern style, originated from martial arts, by using small clubs, wooden gata, or like kind of like a heavy club, and a mace, which is basically a long stick with a ball, a heavy ball at the end of it. And just learning how to train with those styles it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of flow. It's not very different from a training style like kettlebells, to be honest. It involves
Gotcha.
some level of skill, technique, as well as using your strength and your power.
Got it. And the last question is, that you've, been around the world, um, and you've been successful on the management side and the sales side. You got any quotes or things that Marco says that's always coming out of his mouth, or anything, little wisdom nuggets for us?
Well, my favorite, to be honest, is what our tagline at AQ Strong, which is "Strong is a choice," and that's comes a bit from my Stoic philosophy that I've adopted over the years, and it has a lot of levels and meanings to it. It's yeah, your wellness and your fitness is within your control, but your emotional well-being is within your control. That you choose every day what you're going to set out to do and achieve it. So for me, Strong as a choice is something that, I got to stick around my phone with it. It's on my laptops. It's everywhere I go. I see it. So for us, that's a big philosophy that we all share in our company and just as individuals.
So about a month ago, I started. I saw I think it was Seinfeld, that was talking about Stoicism and
Yeah.
Marcus Aurelius,
Yeah.
and so I got
And
on this.
espresso.
I got on the Daily Stoic, and I've been watching a lot of
It's brilliant.
videos and try and take everything and kind of turn it into a positive, or just realize that you're in control of what you're in control of, and don't let other things, knock you down. So it's actually been very, it put me at ease,
Yeah.
more than I was before. So if anyone wants to check out Stoicism, it's definitely a philosophy that will empower you.
It's been
and
tremendous
deflect.
through COVID, that's for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kept me grounded. In particular, when we were in Hong Kong, zero COVID, which was very intense, but also the timing of it was intense because it was right when the rest of the world was opening. So as we see everybody else starting to live their lives again, we were just going into lockdowns. And honestly, so Stoicism was a big help in that period, because seeing the business, basically sitting there doing nothing was a challenge.
Yeah. No, there's a guy named Ryan Holiday
Yep, he's
that
excellent.
I filed
Yep.
virtues of Stoicism. All right. Well, we'll leave everybody with that. Marco, thanks for coming on. Great
It was
work
a pleasure.
on many fronts. It sounds like you affected thousands of people. And,
Thank you so much for the time today.
Stuff like building a successful business, to solve these problems. We're not in the nonprofit industry, so to find out that your location's still humming in Hong Kong's great. Athlete quotient, and let's keep making everybody stronger. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, Pete. Thank you.
Awesome.